Alright, so today we're going to go ahead and create the crank here. The crank's a fairly simple part to create. It's two circles, two tangent lines between them, a center-to-center distance between them, and a horizontal constraint. So as you can see here on the crank, the circular features are 1.5 inches from center to center. We have a 5/8 diameter circle on one end and a 5/16 diameter circle on the other end. So let's go ahead and get started. Create a new part, standard part, English, standard IPT. Alright, as with every part, we should save our part to begin with. So you're going to save that in your automata folder. You're going to call this crank underscore your initials. Once you've done that, we'll go ahead and start every part like we do with a sketch. We're going to go ahead and choose the XY plane, and we'll start this sketch with two circles. We'll lock the first circle to the origin, and we'll dynamically input 0.625. That will make the diameter of the back, and then we'll create the smaller front hole or circle, which is 5/16. If you don't know the decimal equivalent of 5/16, remember inventor loves math. Just type 5 divided by 16 and hit enter, and it will put in 0.3125. Next thing we need to do is come up here to the Constraint tab and add a horizontal constraint between the center points of the circles, so that the circles have to stay horizontal to one another. So we'll click on horizontal constraint, then we will click on the two center points of the circle, which will then make them perfectly horizontal. Always, if we hit escape and we try to click and drag the center point of the circle around, you'll see even though I'm trying to move it up and down, now it will only move side to side. So we need to add the one dimension that's still needed, and we do that by using the general dimension tool. And to dimension between center points of circles, inventor's very smart to understand that we only want to dimension centers of circles. So all we have to do is click one circle, move over, and click the other circle, and as you can see, it will automatically go center to center distance. If you recall, the center to center distance on circular features was 1.5 inches. Now we need two tangent lines to close in this part, one from each side of each circle. So we'll go use the line tool, and we'll lock it with a coincidence constraint to the edge of the first circle, and then we'll drag it out to the second circle until it pops up and shows us the tangent constraint, which is that circle with a line beside it right there. Once we have that up, we'll go ahead and click. And then we'll do the same thing on the other side. We'll click on the circle, and then we'll come out, find the tangent constraint, and click. Now, we still need two dimensions because we did not make this circle, the lines tangent to the larger circle. So we'll come up here to the Constraint tab, and we'll grab the tangent constraint, and then we will click the line and the circle. And then again do it down at the bottom, and you'll see that that will make our sketch fully constrained. Trim it out, so we could trim the circles and use the trim tool, and then come in here and trim out the sections of the circle. That will leave us with only a single profile so that we don't have to select profiles. Okay, so we'll hit E for extrude, and it will automatically select the profile. Come back over here to our part and see that the part is 1/4 inch thick. So then we'll come over here and we'll input our dimension 0.25 and hit enter, and we're happy with that. Okay, now we'll create this little boss right here, which is 0.75 from the back side, so it's an additional 1/2 inch out from the front. We'll start a sketch on the front face, and we'll do that by clicking the front face and then clicking on New Sketch. Now we're going to use another new tool. It's called Project Geometry. What Project Geometry does is gives us geometry from a part and puts it onto the sketch so we can use it. So we'll click Project Geometry up here in the Modify panel, and we come down, and if we click on the surface, you will now see that I have the geometry of the outside of the part. It also gives me the center point of this arc, which then at this point I can draw a circle here, bring it out, and if I just click on the line out here, and if I were to right click in General Dimension, it's going to ask me for a dimension. I'm going to go ahead and just tell it I want it equal. So I'm going to say I want this circle, so I'm going to click the equals constraint in the Constraint tab, and then I'm going to click the circle and click the outer geometry of that, and you'll notice it fully constrains that. E for extrude. There are two profiles available now because of my projected geometry. So I'll select this circle, and I want to extrude it 1/2 inch, and I'll hit OK. The last part to this is to create another new sketch on this face to create this square 0.26 inch hole. And that's 0.26 inches, so it will clear and fit onto a 1/4 inch square piece of basswood. Excuse my son. So we'll start a sketch on this face. You notice the circle here, remember we created at the center point. So that origin point is the center of this arc. So we'll go ahead and under the rectangle tool, in this case we want to use a 2-point center rectangle. Our first click, as you can see in the graphic, is the center, and our second click is one edge of the rectangle. So we'll click on that. We'll lock this rectangle to the origin, and we'll drag it out, and we'll go ahead and just dynamically input our dimensions by typing 0.26, tab, 0.26, enter, and that will create us a fully constrained rectangle. If you want to check that, you can always right-click and go General Dimension, and in the bottom right of your screen, it should say fully constrained. We'll hit E for extrude, and this time we want to cut this out, so we'll change this extrude to a cut. If you forget what these are, you can always just click on them in a preview. Again, this is a case where I don't like a distance in case we change the thickness of our part, so we'll go all, because we want to cut it through all, and then we'll say OK. The crank is done. You can go ahead and save it. One other thing that we would like to do to it would be change our material. So we come up here in our quick access toolbar, and we can find plastic, ABS, PC is a close enough material to what we're going to use. We're going to use a PLA to print it, but ABS is close enough. So we'll click on ABS. That changes our material. If you want, you can certainly always change the color to some other color, tropical blue, or whatever color you would choose to make it. And save it, and that is the crank.